We like to believe that bad people do bad things. Criminals, dictators, scammers, monsters. It's comforting to think the world works that way, that good people are good and bad people are bad. But what if that isn't true? What if the greatest danger isn't evil people? What if ordinary people, people like you, people like me, are capable of doing terrible things under the right conditions? Psychology has spent decades trying to answer that question. And what researchers discovered is both fascinating and unsettling. Most of us see ourselves as good people. We try to do the right thing. We help friends. We care about family. We follow rules. And because we see ourselves this way, we often assume that people who do bad things must be fundamentally different from us. But human behavior is rarely that simple. Every day, ordinary people tell lies, break promises, spread rumors, ignore suffering, or stay silent when they know something is wrong. Not because they are evil, but because human behavior is influenced by forces we don't always recognize. The truth is that good intentions do not always lead to good actions, and sometimes the gap between the two is much smaller than we think. In 1961, a psychologist named Stanley Milgram conducted an experiment that would become one of the most famous studies in history. Volunteers arrived believing they were participating in research about learning and memory. They were instructed to administer electric shocks to another participant whenever that person answered a question incorrectly. The shock started small, but with each mistake, the voltage increased. Unknown to the volunteers, the shocks were not real. The person receiving them was an actor, but the volunteers didn't know that. As the experiment continued, the actor began to protest, then scream, then beg for the shocks to stop. Some volunteers became visibly uncomfortable. They hesitated. They questioned what they were doing. Yet many continued. Why? Because an authority figure calmly instructed them to proceed. The results stunned the world. Nearly 2/3 of participants continued all the way to what they believed could be a deadly level of electricity. These weren't criminals. They weren't violent people. They were ordinary citizens. The experiment revealed something disturbing. When authority is strong enough, many people will act against their own moral instincts. A decade later, another experiment will reveal a different side of human behavior. The Stanford Prison Experiment. A group of college students volunteered to participate in a study. Some were assigned the role of prisoners. Others became guards. The roles were assigned randomly. At first, everything seemed normal, but within days, the situation changed dramatically. The guard became increasingly controlling. Some became cruel. Some abused their power. Meanwhile, the prisoners became anxious, stressed, and emotionally overwhelmed. The experiment became so intense that researchers ended it early. The lesson was powerful. People often adapt to the roles and environments around them, sometimes far more quickly than anyone expects. The situation itself can shape behavior, even among people who enter with no intention of causing harm. Most harmful actions don't begin with evil intentions. They begin with small compromises. A tiny lie, a shortcut, an excuse, a decision that seems harmless in the moment. Psychologists call this rationalization. It's the process of convincing ourselves that our actions are justified. We tell ourselves things like, everyone does it. It's not a big deal. I had no choice. These explanations make us feel better about decisions that conflict with our values. Over time, those small compromises become easier, and what once felt wrong begins to feel normal. Many major ethical failures begin this way, not with one huge decision, but with a series of small ones. Human beings like to think they are fully in control of their choices, but our behavior is constantly influenced by invisible pressures: authority, fear, social acceptance, group loyalty, financial incentives, the desire to belong, the fear of standing alone. These forces affect everyone. Under enough pressure, people may act in ways they never thought possible. This doesn't mean humans are naturally evil. It means humans are deeply influenced by their environment, and often we underestimate how powerful that influence can be. Perhaps the most uncomfortable lesson in psychology is this: the line between good and evil is not a wall. It's a boundary that exists within every human being. The people who carried out harmful actions throughout history were not always monsters. Many were ordinary people responding to extraordinary pressures. Understanding this truth isn't about becoming cynical. It's about becoming aware. Because the better we understand the forces that shape behavior, the better prepared we are to resist them. The moment we assume we can never make a terrible mistake, may be the moment we become most vulnerable to making one. So the question is not whether good people can do bad things. The question is, if you were placed in the same situation, would you be any different? If you enjoyed this exploration into human behavior, subscribe to Stories Behind Behavior for more fascinating stories that reveal the hidden psychology behind the choices people make. And tell us in the comments, do you think you would have resisted the pressure?